You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 180 of Teach Better Talk. My name is Ray Hewart, and as always, I am with my out-of-this-world co-host, Jeff Gargis. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good, except for everyone's probably like, oh, wow, she's saying something nice, but you're really saying out of this world because of the episode.
I am. When you get into this episode, you'll see the space reference. That's what that was.
Yes, I enjoy that, though. I'm gonna get you with one here. Can we talk about something else that's out of this world?
Oh, look at that funny transition.
So this episode is coming out on the 11th, which means the day before this comes out, which is the 10th, we did our 12-hour live stream, and during that live stream, we announced something pretty awesome, in my opinion.
Okay, hold on. We announced like 17 cool things.
Well, yeah, but like this particular thing that we decided that we're going to talk about right now is the one thing. So we're going to talk about that one thing.
Very exciting.
We did announce a lot of stuff. We'll give like so much stuff away too. But so
we
announced
12 hours, guys. 12 hours.
So I gotta assume if we actually did record this like on Thursday, which is the day that you're hearing this right now, that we would be a lot more tired at this point. But
I'm asleep right now. I'm asleep as you're listening to this in your ears on Thursday. Just know I'm asleep.
It's pretty accurate. So but we announced something pretty awesome that has been worked on for 12 months now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how long this conversation has gone before actually launching it. In some capacity, I'm proud of us that we, had a wonderful team that thought through and took their time. But Megan and Andrea created something amazing that we get to celebrate.
Huge shout out to Megan and Andrea for this amazing work. Do you want to say? Should I say it? Are you saying it? Am I saying it? Who's saying it? How's this working here?
I'm going to assume that during our 12-hour live stream, I said it, so I'm going to go with you can say it on the podcast.
All right, we announced our ambassador program. I'm jumping right in there. So we announced the official Teach Better ambassador program, which means you can become an ambassador with Teach Better. I don't know what that means. What does that mean, Ray?
What do you mean, what does that mean? It's a huge deal. We are so thrilled. This is just another way you can get involved with being a part of the Teach Better team. But what I love is that we have two phenomenal members of our team that have not only come to the team with this beautiful idea to celebrate educators, but also have created this amazing opportunity for educators' voices to be amplified, for us to get them free stuff, which is always a good thing, and for us just continue to add to our family in more of an official capacity. So if you go to teachbetter.com/ambassador, you're going to see that website is live. You can't actually apply yet. That's kind of the kicker. We have a few amazing ambassadors that we decided to launch with, but applications for everyone else opens on June 17th.
We give just yes? Yes, you're right. So can we give just a quick shout out to the 7 that are helping us kick all this off?
Yes, I love these 7 amazing educators, and they've been a part of our Teach Better family for a long time, but not like officially. So I think that people that are in our family are going to be like, oh yeah, those people are so wonderful ambassadors.
So we got Megan and Andrea, who mentioned, Megan Deegan and Andrea Couchbrenner, who have been working on this for, like I said, 12 months. They've been part of our network forever, and then they've been part of the team for, it's about a little over a year now, right around a year. And then we have, let's see who else we got. We got Brianne Fennell, which we love Brianne.
Love her.
Lindsay Titus, who I know you start your day off every day just listening to what she's got to say.
Amazing.
Evan Whitehead, who is just a phenomenal consultant, a phenomenal leader. Just the knowledge that's in this man's head is unreal.
And he shares. He's like the most generous person. If you're not connected with him on social media, he is sharing tools constantly.
It's like Evan's one of those guys. You're like, hey, Evan, could you help? Before you even ask, he's just like, yes. It's done.
True.
We're speaking of another man like that, Dave Schmittou. So my buddy, my partner in crime, Dave, right?
Yes, and the day that we're recording this, Dave Schmittou had a Team Ray shirt, just so everybody knows.
That's true. That's very true. Very true. And then Livia Chan, who's been with us for
Oh,
She's newer to our group, but man, she just like grab onto our community and not. And she claims that she's getting a lot out of the community, but man, she's bringing so much to our team and to our community, so much just love, positivity, and knowledge and her experience stuff. So just an incredible crew to kick this thing off. Uh, and now in a few days, you'll have the opportunity if you want to become an ambassador. You can go on the site like Ray said, teachbetter.com/ambassador. You can see what that means, what all, you kind of get what's expected, all that type of stuff. And then on the 17th, application will open. Here's the catch, Ray.
I know I'm nervous about this part, so I want to make
Here's
sure
the
our
catch is
podcast guests know this.
because we know that it's that we like, or at least we hope, like we're pretty sure it's going to be pretty quick filled up. Like we want to make sure that we can manage it properly and take care of our ambassadors the right way. We're
Yes.
actually only opening the window, opening applications until we get 20 people that qualify to get in.
Mhm.
Then we will close it. Now, here's the catch. Don't panic. We're going to open it back up. We just want to make sure we can manage and properly take care of those 20. So it'll be 27 altogether, right? To start
Well,
first. And
27, assuming that those 20 applications are accepted, because when they submit, they still need to be reviewed.
that's what I'm saying. 20 that qualify and are good to go and agree to be a part of it and stuff like that. So that could happen really, really quickly. It might be open and closed within an hour. It might be 4 days. I don't know. So just be aware of that. 17th. I can't. We settled on a time. Is it 10 o'clock Central Time? Is that
10
we're doing something
o'clock
like that?
Central Time,
Yeah.
which is 11 o'clock Eastern. It will
Yes.
open on the 17th.
Yes. So make sure you get in there and just be a part of it. It's really, really cool. We're super excited. We got a lot of cool stuff planned for our ambassadors and what they're going to be doing and what they're going to be a part of and what they get and all that fun stuff.
Should be fun.
So teachbetter.com/ambassador. Cool.
Yes, I
Cool.
love it.
All right, let's talk about this episode. Episode 180. How crazy is that? When you said that earlier, I was like, whoa, like that's only 20 from 200. I can do math, and that's amazing, right? All of that's amazing. The fact that we're at 180, the fact that we're only 20 away from 200, and the fact that Jeff can do math, all amazing. Three amazing
And
things.
the fact that Ray has survived 180 episodes with Jeff Gargas. Yes, that is
That's probably the biggest one right there. So we got to chat with Tim Stephenson, and I'm going to say this. I don't want to embarrass Tim. I think this just shows the how humble he is. Before we got started, he kind of asked, he's like, so like, why am I here? Like, why did you ask me on? And when we were done with the episode, I said, all right, so earlier you asked why you were here. That's why, because after the episode, we were both just like, that was awesome. Like it was a really good episode. This guy's got I just love his viewpoint on things, his experience. You're talking 27 years experience teaching, all in the same district, which is really crazy. And he's taught science, chemistry, and then I love his story about how he started teaching astronomy, and I'm going to let it go on that. But he's a big astronomy guy, environmental sciences. He actually, we didn't even talk about this, but he actually got the Prime Minister's Award in 2018. Like, pretty
whoa.
cool there, right? He's got
Yeah.
two podcasts that he started, Science 360 and Teachers of Walnut Grove, which both of them really cool concepts, and I really like how he's using both of them as well. So, and he also sits as the Director of Education for Plastic Oceans Canada, which we did not get into in the podcast, but you should definitely check out. I'm really excited about this. You mentioned it a couple times in the podcast that sort of his passion just kind of oozes out of him, and really is like you can't help but feel like just excited about what he's talking about. And I just love when we have guests like that. He is absolutely one of them. I'm super excited about this episode with Tim.
I am a huge fan. Let's get into it.
All right, we are here and we are chatting with Tim Stephenson. Tim, it's so great to have you on the podcast. We've been talking a little bit beforehand, just trying to get to know each other. You're up in Canada. We realized that the little map that shows up on our recording here has just a little bit of the United States in there, so we're like really connected. It's great. It's a little moment for us, but super excited to kind of just learn about your story, your career in education, and get to know you a little bit more. Before we get too far into that, man, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, considering all that's been going on with the funny way we are doing school now here in Canada, probably the same as you guys in the States. But otherwise, I'm pretty pumped to be here. It's going to be fun.
Now, are you back in? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Ray, but like, because I know a lot of BC went back. Are you guys back in classrooms now?
Well, BC has a bit of a hybrid model going on right now, so we're 20% back in the classroom, and then the rest of the time we're still doing online.
Gotcha. And for those of you not hip to the Canada talk, BC is slang for British Columbia. I know I'm pretty cool, Ray. You're probably a little lost. It's all right.
God
Jeff,
save the queen.
I've never found you cooler than I do right this moment.
Get
So
out your
that's good.
map.
Yes. So a little bit of a hybrid right now, huh? So
Yeah, hybrid situation.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's going pretty well. It's we're still supporting the students' online learning, and then those who feel the need, they can voluntarily come into the class. But we're only allowed to have 20% maximum of our student population come in at any one time. So it's pretty light in the classrooms. Only 4 or 5 kids at a time.
Well, Tim, I'm really excited that you're here. I'm like loving all this detail already, especially before we start recording, just learning more about you. But obviously, we're going to be able to get far deeper into all of that. Before we learn far more about your story, everything you've done in education, would you mind kind of telling our listeners what you do, how you describe yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm a science teacher. Predominantly, I'm an astronomy teacher, so that in itself is a little bit on the unique side. I can tell you more about that later if you want. But like I've been in the business of teaching for since 1993. So I've really been around the classroom a long time. So how would I describe myself? Like I'm a big picture thinker. I'm probably more on the broad brush from 30,000 feet kind of a person. I see possibilities. I see opportunities. This whole COVID thing has just been one massive opportunity after another, as far as I'm concerned. I know people tend to look at the limitations and all the reasons why this won't work. But how would you describe me? I would say I see the reasons why this will work, and it's going to turn out really good. That's just kind of the way I am. So
Well, yeah, I like the positive spin on there and having it. I think it's important for us with such a devastating, crisis that we're in to find the positive anytime we can. I think that's important for our mental health and also for moving forward because we still got to take care of kids. We still got to do the things we got to do. So having that mindset of this is going to be okay, we're going to make this work is, I think, really important. So astronomy. So that's definitely unique. Ray, I don't think we've ever had an astronomy teacher on, have we? I don't think so.
I bet the answer is no.
Yeah,
I don't.
I can't
Yeah,
think of one. You're our favorite so far.
yeah. Favorite astronomy teacher. So
Yeah.
I,
Wait a minute. Who else have you had on then?
that's well,
Okay,
you're setting the bar high.
yeah,
That's what we're
I'm
doing
reading
today.
between the lines here.
So astronomy in general is a unique class in a different style. So how much is that? I guess sort of if you could kind of paint the picture of like what was your class before and what does it look like now? What has changed now that you remote? Like how much has that really shifted what you do in your class and how have you overcome that change?
Well, astronomy is has become my passion area of teaching, and around the school, I'm kind of known as the astronomy guy. I'm Astro Stephenson, right? So it's really come about. If I could just sort of back up a bit and just tell you that when it was early 2000s and I went to my principal and I said, in this day and age, we're 3 4 years into the 21st century, the two hottest sciences are what I thought were genetics and astronomy, and I thought big things are going to be happening in both fields, and I said we ought to be teaching one or the other. And it wasn't more than a few months later she came back and she said, well, would you like to do the astronomy course? And so I jumped at the opportunity, and I sort of, that's just an example of I created that opportunity. I just I wanted to teach it. I knew what I wanted to do to make my job happy. Happy teacher, happy student, sort of thing. And I've been doing it for 15 years. I didn't know too much back in the early days. I've learned a lot, but it's a way to, like, none of my students are really necessarily going on to work at NASA, right? But I teach them everything I can think of from the moon on out, and they get their science senior science credit for graduation from that. So it's not a hard sell. People are naturally interested in space. They always are wondering, what is that bright thing I saw in the sky, or what about a black hole, and what about aliens, and those sorts of things. It's easy to generate curiosity, and so it's sort of naturally bred into the course. So now that we're online, um, it's not too hard for me to pose questions, sort of inquiry questions to dig into. And what I've done to help them is I've created a lot of online content that they can watch that kind of leads them to where I want them to be, and then they can comment.
Very cool. So, all right, Tim, you brought it up, so I'm going to bring it up. What about aliens? Where do you land on the alien game?
Well, it's one of those things where it's almost more absurd to say that there are no sorry. It's almost more absurd to say that there are aliens than there are not aliens. Did I say that wrong?
I'm not sure. It depends on what side you lay on. Are you saying it's more absurd to say that there aren't to think that there's nothing else out there than there is to?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the odds are pretty darn good. When you look at the stars at night, you can safely assume that probably 90% of the stars you're looking at have some sort of planetary system orbiting it. Now, you figure that there's, in the Milky Way galaxy alone, 400 billion stars. That means there's at least 400 billion planets, and probably more. In fact, like our solar system, there's 8, right? So there's probably a trillion planets in the galaxy alone. And then there's hundreds of billions of galaxies. So the odds that Earth is the only one, but the reality is, we don't have any evidence whatsoever. It's like Carl Sagan said, extraordinary claims requires extraordinary evidence. And we don't really have that yet. So it's likely that there's something out there, but we just don't know.
Okay, I do just want to clarify, Tim. Officially, you are my favorite astronomy teacher.
I,
Yes, I'm pumped by that.
I want to clarify that Tim just basically said there's aliens. So let's.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, the fact of the matter is they're probably so far away that we may never ever cross paths. I mean,
Yeah.
I think somewhere down the line we're going to continue looking, and maybe they're out there looking too, or that they're not going to look obviously like what we think they were in the movies, which will be very disappointing in my opinion. But
You figure if you ever did cross paths, the thought from movies is that they'd probably destroy us, or they'd take us into captivity, or some sort of horrible confrontation. But when I think of us, if we ever landed on their planet, imagine if I think what we would do, I would think anyway, is we'd say, "Wow, that's so cool, you guys. We've come into contact. What can we learn from you?" I don't think we would go there and say, "Aha! Now that we've come across these millions and millions of light years, we're going to destroy you." No, we're going to ask questions and try to learn from you, and I would expect they'd probably do the same thing.
yeah, that's a good point. That's probably what would happen. It just doesn't make for as good of a movie.
Yeah, it's less of a
That's
movie situation.
it is what it is. So let's see. So you said 93. So what is that 27 years
Yeah.
experience teaching? Wow. And at the same school, if I'm correct, right? In the same district the whole time?
Same district the whole time, not the same school, mostly just at one school, Walnut Grove Secondary, for the most part. Yeah. So gotten to know that building pretty well.
But yeah, being in the same district, that's awesome. That you've gotten to stay in that same district and stuff. And I also know that you've got podcasts. You can go. Do you have 2 podcasts?
Yeah, a little bit of a COVID opportunity here.
Okay.
I knew that on the one hand, being at Walnut Grove for such a long time, I knew that there's a lot of the staff turnover. There's a group of us that are all going to be retiring in the next 5 years. And when we go, sort of with us, we'll leave the legacy of the original staff at Walnut Grove. It's a relatively new school. It's about 30-year-old school. And so to sort of hang on to that, I thought, what we need to do is we need to capture some stories. And so I started a podcast called Teachers of Walnut Grove, and I've been interviewing teachers, and I didn't know what was going to come of it, but what I think has come of it is they've started all telling interesting stories about the culture of the school and what made it so great. And it was the people who opened that building, and they all had a way. And I think new teachers should listen to this podcast, because they can say, like, you mean in order to do something great with a teaching career, what do I need to do? Well, listen to this podcast, because the things that these teachers have done is inspiring. And I think younger teachers who are just starting out and thinking, how can I make my mark in education? Well, there's some great examples here. So one by one, I've been contacting teachers and saying, hey, would you like to sit down and have a conversation on the Teachers of Walnut Grove podcast? And this is sort of what it's become.
That's pretty cool. And then the other one is Science 360.
Yeah, Science 360 is an idea I've had for quite a while. The 360, because it could be any aspect, a full circle, any aspect of science, doesn't matter what it is. I have a particular slant towards astronomy and the environment, so a lot of my guests are kind of in those fields. So I talk to them. We just talk about their area of expertise, and I ask them some questions, and then what I do actually is quite a few of them I've assigned to my students as their stay at home learning assignment, instead of me teaching them, here, listen to this 30-minute podcast. And then tell me what you've learned. What did it make you think? Do you have questions? Did it make you dig a little deeper? And then we sort of interact with the material that way. And I think it's met with a pretty positive response.
I love that so much it almost hurts.
Mm.
That is so cool.
I won't lie. I mean, I feel like we've talked to a lot of people that have emphasized the need to tell the story of the school. And there's a lot of different ways we've seen this, obviously social media being a massive one. I love the idea of just creating a podcast, because you truly are creating a time capsule of the magic of the school that you could continue. I mean, for years. It's a great idea.
It is a time capsule, and it's especially significant to the people who know the people and who know the school. But if you simply wanted, say in a teacher training program at a university, uh, this is good for if you kind of get over the fact that I really don't know the people I'm listening to. It's worth hearing, just because the effort that they put into their careers and the connections that they've made with the students. It wasn't the stories of students saying, "Gee, you had some of the best tests I've ever written. Wow, I'm always going to remember that." No, it's not like it's like it's the connections, it's the relationships, it's the personal stories, it's the clubs, it's the sports, it's the trips, it's all these extra things that kids are going to remember, and they walk away with a feeling, and it's an impact on their lives that we're hearing time and time again. And I didn't know that was going to happen when I started this podcast, but it's just this theme that sort of popped out at me.
Tim, I have one quick question for you. I know I'm getting off topic here, but I have to know. Have you ever
Is it
considered
an
using
alien
this
thing?
podcast style? No, it's not. It's not. It should be an alien thing. That was going to be my second question. I didn't know if Jeff was going to let me go for two. But the main one is, could you use this to even just celebrate the incoming students or the incoming new staff to learn about the amazing place they're about to work or learn in? I mean, you're really setting not only a culture within the school itself, but also this is a great avenue for a new teacher picking up a new position in an area they're unfamiliar, or students coming in, freshmen getting excited to learn in that environment. Do you use it that way ever?
Well, it's relatively new. I've only been doing it for a couple of months, and I've got 9 episodes, but that is definitely on my hit list, because, like, for instance, we're going through an admin change in our school. Well, the new admin coming in, they're not going to have a long history with the school. If, quite frankly, they were smart, what they do is they'd sit and they'd listen to some of these, and they go, "Oh, so that's what this school's been about for the last 30 years. That's interesting. Now I know a bit more about the way this school kind of ticks," and they'll be more in tune with who they're working with.
Well, Tim, I won't lie to you. Now that you're especially connected to Jeff Gargas, he's about the worst person ever when you tell him the goals you have, because he holds you accountable and makes them like 13 times larger than you expected. So just be aware that he's about to text you after this episode, and he's going to want like 100 episodes by next month recorded so you can make this all happen.
Okay, I've got nothing else going on, so it
I
should be
think
fine.
I think it's cool. I think both the podcasts and the way you're using them are really cool. That's really awesome. And it goes back to what you originally said, like seeing the positive in this crisis that we're in and taking advantage of that opportunity that was there as well. You're definitely doing that. So that's super cool. And I agree with you with the admin piece. Like that's an amazing resource for that new admin to come in and learn about. I mean, like yeah. I'm loving it. All right, let's get to some of the questions that we normally do here. So one of the ones that something we always talk about on this podcast is failure and overcoming challenges. I always say that I've been fortunate enough to fail a whole lot in my life because I've learned from each one of those things. So can you just share a story with us about the time you've had a failure or a challenge that you had to overcome? Just kind of share with us what happened, how did you overcome that, and then what did you take away from that experience?
Well, I don't know that there's been. I mean, honestly, maybe I've had a bit of a blessed career. Like I don't know that there's been a huge moment of failure, but there's, all throughout a career and life, in fact, there's always things that are disappointing. Things didn't work out the way you wanted them to. I've always looked at those, and at the moment, I've thought, wow, what's gone wrong? What happened here? But what happens is you've got to hang in there, and you've got to just wait. Who knows? months, weeks, years, I don't know, whatever it happens to be. And the number of times I've looked back and said, wow, it's actually turned out okay. I thought I was going to be in that school. I ended up in this school. I thought I'd be teaching that class. I got this one. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want, but it worked out okay. And I think overreacting to a situation too fast and too soon usually is not the best course of action. Just hang in there, see what's going to come of it, hope for the best. And I found, in my experience, it's usually worked out that way.
I think that's great. That's so awesome. I have to know, with everything that you've done, because it sounds to me like you're passionate about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
If you had to identify like what keeps you most excited about education or all that you're doing, what would that be?
Well, I know that one of the things you're going to ask me about is great piece of advice. And I can't help but going back to my faculty, or sorry, it was my school associate way back in 92, 93, John Maschak. He was the teacher who guided me in my practicum. And he said at the time that teaching is a 24/7 job, 10 months of the year. And he said, kind of just get used to that. And I always took that to heart. And I think these days it's more maybe 12 months of the year. And honestly, I think it is. I think if someone's going to truly get the most out of their teaching career, they're going to look at it that way. I just love the opportunity to tell people what I know. I love learning things and then saying, have you heard about this? Like, this is amazing. You didn't know that there were a trillion planets in the galaxy? Let me tell you about that. Now let's talk about the possibilities of life out there. And like it's just what keeps me passionate. I just love to learn things, and I've got a couple of key areas I like to learn about. I have to admit, I've stumbled across astronomy and I've stumbled across environmental issues, and they've made kind of my career. I'm sort of wrapped up in them, and I read about them. And when I learn stuff, I just want to sort of teach people. I just want to teach. It's sort of an innate thing. Maybe it's just a natural thing. But I think if you're going to enjoy your teaching career, you've got to find A, your passion, and then B, you've just got to love teaching it. And I guess that's worked out in my case. It's what I am.
Well, and I like your tie-in between those two questions. You're right. Question 4 and 5 in our podcast always is about what are you passionate about and what keeps you thriving in education, essentially. And then what's the advice you'd give for someone to also reach that point, supporting students. And I have to tell you, Tim, I know that we've only recently connected, but even just hearing on this podcast, I would love to be in your class because I love learning from passionate educators. And it's so different when you're surrounded in a learning environment with an educator that is so in love with being present and sharing and learning that whole experience, rather than being with somebody who's maybe just, feeling like they're doing their job, maybe just
Hmm.
doing, the 9 to 5, which it seems like most teachers don't do. But that passion really is the difference. When it oozes out of your pores, you really want to be in that class. So I love that that was your piece of advice and your passion. It worked very well.
Mm. The I have to say, like the expression that's been used about the guide on the side versus the sage on the stage, I kind of cringe at that particular expression, and it concerns me that that sort of crept into what defines a great teacher is that guide on the side instead of this, like, but what is a teacher? The very word teacher is I teach. It's what I do. I express knowledge and understanding through story and through relevant application and through enthusiasm. I quite frankly, I think my bread and butter has been I teach, and kids listen, and they give me good feedback. Quite frankly, they give me good feedback. And I think there's something to be said for teachers thinking, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing because I spent 25 minutes actually talking. Well, maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess it depends on how you do it. I don't think what I do is lecturing. I don't think I'm lecturing you. I think we're having discussions, and I maybe that's the something that teachers should be more willing to do.
Yeah, I do think sometimes that gets a little bit confused between lecturing and then active learning in that sense. When you're having a discussion, they're still actively learning. So yeah, you may be talking, you may be at the front room speaking for 25 minutes, but if they're engaging with you and you're storytelling, you're having a conversation, that's not the same as just standing up there and delivering, right?
Correct.
It's a different thing. You're bringing them into that storytelling and the conversation. That's a different thing in my opinion. So, and I can feel it. I just from this podcast, I just can't imagine you standing up there and being the guy that just like like that's just not that's just not how it would be. So,
Yeah.
that which you saying you're getting the positive feedback. So I don't that doesn't surprise me at all. So, all right, let's continue. I always say like
Yeah.
let's have some fun here, but like we've been having the whole time. So let's keep having some fun.
Sure.
With these next 6 questions, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna throw them at you. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready?
I'm ready, I
All
think.
right. Give us. I'll take it. I think's good enough for me. Uh, give us one ed tech tool you cannot live without.
Oh, I think that my iPad and my Apple Pencil and my projector with wireless connections. I love that opportunity. Yeah, for sure. Visual, man. You got to be visual.
Does that count as one ed tech tool? Come on, Tim.
I'm gonna give it to him. I'm gonna give it to him.
Sorry.
It's sort of like a solar system of tech tools. We're gonna let it roll.
I needed my solar system.
It's a they work together. Give us a book you're reading right now.
Oh yeah. You gotta read Mother of God by Paul Rosalie. Just an amazing book about a guy from New York who ended up down in the Amazon, Peru actually, and he's now a conservationist. He's all over the media, news talks about the Amazon fires and things. Fascinating book. Paul Rosalie, Mother of God.
Who do we need to follow on either Twitter or Instagram today?
I think dang it, I had a good. Oh boy, you give me 15 seconds. You're killing me here. I got that written down. Honestly, okay, let me just qualify it and answer the question this way. I will probably not give you the answer of an educator. I like to get information, right? So I'm in this field. I'm going to follow people. Like, for instance, one that I really quite like is Professor Catherine Hayhoe, professor on Twitter. This
Okay.
this she's actually a prof down in Texas. She's a Canadian actually, and probably one of the greatest communicators on climate change on Twitter today.
Cool.
Excellent. Give us a good YouTube channel or website for educators to check out.
Oh, I think a couple engineering explained is really good, and I really like World Science Festival by Brian Greene. He's a professor at Columbia University in New York. He's got a fantastic website, and he's been answering a question a day ever since March. Over, with all this stuff that's going on. Fascinating. If you're a science teacher, you've got to be listening to Brian Greene on World Science Festival.
Give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
Uh, I think on a daily basis, you got to know what's going on in the world. You got to be up to date on current affairs. You got to be reading. You always got to be innovating. I know I'm a big fan of creating. You got to on a daily basis be thinking, how can I create something fantastic that's going to grab my students' attention? Be online. What's your online presence? You got to build that.
And lastly, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I kind of answered that one already, but I think I do go back to if we're talking about advice for teaching, it really does have to be kind of all consuming. You have to be involved in this on a regular basis. I'm everywhere I go. I'm thinking, hey, that's interesting. What could I learn about that? Who could I talk to? Or that conversation I just had, can I turn that into a guest lesson? Can I turn that into a lesson for myself? You've always got to keep your eyes and ears open to what's around you and then bring it into your classroom and make it relevant.
I like that, Tim. It's like the people that say, oh, teaching's a lifestyle. Like it's not, it is a career. We do work, but you really do need to kind of encompass it as at all times to stay relevant. And I think that's awesome.
Good.
Cool. Well, Tim, I want to make sure that all of our listeners can stay connected to you because I've learned so much, even just within our short conversation. I want to make sure I go follow everybody that you suggested and connect with you further. to continue to learn. I am not a professional astronomer by any means, but man, am I interested in it now. So would you mind kind of sharing with us how people can stay connected, whether it be your Twitter, your Instagram, or maybe you have a blog you'd like to share?
Well, I got a bit of a theme going on. I am known as Astro Stephenson, so my Twitter is Astro Stephenson, my Instagram is Astro Stephenson, my website is astrostephenson.ca. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Astro Stephenson. So, and all the content that I create, video and podcasts and blogs, it's all on my website at astrostephenson.ca, and that's where you're going to find me. And anything I've created is going to be there.
Well, you make that pretty easy on us. I appreciate that. I like that when that happens. So you listen and you can find all the links and all the resources and everything we talked about here in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as the really important links for connecting with Tim and keeping the conversation going. So head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and a review, we'd really, really appreciate that as well. And let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and connect with these amazing educators, and share this podcast with them. Tim, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us, just sharing your story and your passion. You can just feel it coming through. And we just love episodes that have that, where you're going to, I know people are going to listen and just feel it. And that gets me pumped up. So thanks for giving us some of your time, man. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Love the opportunity.
Until next time, let's get out there. Let's teach better.